Have you ever felt like the harder you push toward a goal, the more resistance you feel? It's this super frustrating paradox, right? Well, today we're going to dive into a pretty radical idea that the secret to achieving more might actually be to push less. I know, it sounds completely backward, but stick with me because this could totally change how you approach, well, everything. Look, we've all been taught that success comes from hustle, from grinding, from just powering through no matter what. But I want you to just stop for a second and ask yourself, has that really always worked for you? What if the very act of forcing it is the thing creating all the friction that's holding you back in the first place? So here's the game plan for today. First, we'll dig into what I'm calling the paradox of force. Then we're going to take a surprising little detour into physics to really understand the science of flow. From there, we'll pinpoint exactly what causes our own mental turbulence, talk about how to reclaim our natural flow state, and finally, I'm going to give you a really simple, powerful tool you can start using today, called the flow alignment loop. Okay, so here's the paradox in a nutshell. Most of our struggle doesn't actually come from the task we're trying to do. It comes from the internal chaos, the mental turbulence that we create around it. It's like you're trying to swim against a current that you yourself created. The more you fight it and the harder you force it, the stronger that resistance gets. Now, to really get a handle on this, we're going to borrow a concept from a field that seems totally unrelated: physics. Yeah, seriously. The science of how things move, specifically fluid dynamics, gives us this perfect metaphor for understanding our own energy and our own productivity. Yep, we're talking about fluid dynamics. And don't worry, you are not going to need a physics degree for this, I promise. It's basically just the study of how things like water and air move. And what's so cool is that it shows us these two fundamental patterns of flow that are a perfect mirror for our own mental energy. Okay, so what are these two patterns? They're called laminar and turbulent flow. Laminar flow is smooth, it's efficient, it's orderly. All the energy is moving in the same direction. Turbulent flow? It's the exact opposite. It's chaotic, it's wasteful, and it actually creates its own resistance. One is clean forward progress, the other is just thrashing around, burning energy, and going absolutely nowhere. And you see this stuff literally everywhere once you start looking. Think about honey pouring slowly from a jar. That's that beautiful, smooth laminar flow. Now picture a raging river crashing over a bunch of rocks. That's pure turbulence. You can even see the transition happen in real time with the smoke from a candle. It starts off smooth and then just dissolves into chaos. So the real question is, which one is happening inside your head right now? So if our minds can be like that raging, turbulent river, what's causing all the chaos? Let's get into the three main ways we actually create that turbulence for ourselves. All right, so these are the three big culprits. Number one, mental overactivity. You know, that endless hamster wheel in your brain. Number two is emotional overinvestment, which is when we tie our entire sense of self-worth to one specific outcome. And number three is fear-based action, where everything we do is driven by anxiety instead of clarity. Let's start with mental overactivity. This is you in the shower, replaying that conversation from 3 days ago, or running through 100 different disastrous outcomes for a meeting that hasn't even happened yet. It feels like you're being productive, but really, you're just burning a ton of cognitive fuel without moving an inch forward. It's just noise. Okay, next up, emotional overinvestment. This is when the stakes feel impossibly, ridiculously high. Success starts to feel like a matter of basic survival, and failure feels absolutely catastrophic. And all of that emotional weight, it just crushes you, right? It totally distorts your perception and makes every simple step feel like climbing a mountain. And finally, we've got fear-based action. This is when your motivation isn't about moving towards something good, but about running away from something bad. It leads to these rushed, rigid, panicky decisions. And the crazy part is, this often creates the exact mess you were trying to avoid in the first place. So, how do we get out of this mess? How do we escape all this turbulence and get back to that smooth, powerful, laminar flow? Well, the answer isn't some new productivity hack or app. It's about a fundamental shift in how you approach everything. It's about moving from force to alignment. And a huge piece of this puzzle is getting the difference between detachment and indifference. They sound similar, but they're worlds apart. Indifference is just checking out. You stop caring about the work, you stop caring about the outcome. But detachment, that's where the magic is. It's about withdrawing your desperation. You still care deeply about what you're doing, you just don't need a specific result to feel okay about yourself. And this all leads to a really powerful realization: outcomes are not earned through stress. All that pressure and anxiety, doesn't actually get you the results you want. True sustainable progress comes from consistency, from being present, and from taking aligned action. It's not about frantic, forced effort. It's just not. Now, this all sounds great in theory, but how do you actually do it in the moment? I want to give you a simple, powerful tool you can use the second you feel that internal tension and turbulence start to build. It's called the flow alignment loop. The easiest way to think about this is as a mental reset button. Seriously, the moment you feel that pressure building, that anxiety creeping in, you can run this simple loop in your head to bring yourself right back to that smooth, calm, laminar state. It's just 3 simple steps: lighten, level, and lean. First, you lighten up by dropping all that emotional weight. Then, you level out by bringing your attention back to a neutral center. And finally, you lean into the very next action, but without any force at all. So step 1, lighten. What does that mean? It means just dropping that heavy emotional backpack you're carrying around. Just pause for a sec. Notice where you feel that tension building. Is it in your shoulders, your jaw? Take 1 slow, deliberate breath. You're not trying to fight your racing thoughts. You're just giving them some space to settle on their own. Okay, step 2, level. Now that you've got a little breathing room, you're gonna level out. You do this by asking yourself one super simple grounding question. What's actually happening right now? That one question, I'm telling you, it has the power to cut right through all the mental drama, all the projections, and just anchor you back in reality. And the last step is to lean. Now that you're calm and centered, you take the next step, but you do it cleanly. No pushing, no rushing, no trying to figure out the next 10 moves. You just glide into the single next action that makes sense right now. That's how you create forward motion without creating more turbulence. You know, this whole idea from laminar flow to this alignment loop, it's not new. It's actually beautifully summed up by the ancient Taoist principle of Wu Wei. It's often translated as effortless action or action without force. It's the art of moving with a situation, not against it, just like how water flows so effortlessly around a rock. So I want to leave you with this question to think about. Look at your life, your job, your relationships, your personal goals. Where are you pushing when you could be flowing? Where in your life could a little less force actually lead you to a much, much better result?